Hi everybody, welcome back to Flames Pyro Art for Beginners and Beyond. Today we're having a little look at the small rounded skew. Now I'd touched on this pen briefly in the past, but today I just want to give you a little show of what this pen is good for. As you can see, if we can get it up to the camera, it's really fine blade. It's like a sharp Stanley knife blade, really. It's for doing super fine lines and burns. Now, first of all, you've got to gauge your heat setting, because with it being a narrower, smaller tip, the heat settings are different to, say, your large flat round there, which is more of a large shading pen. Obviously, as we can see, there's a big difference. So setting the heat is going to be our first task. Now, what I always do to test where we're at is go to one of my dark points. And if I go to one of my dark points first and I'm set on my heat too hot, then you know I haven't ruined anything, because I'm working in a really dark area. That's going to go as near to black as possible anyway. So you can gauge your heat by working in those spots where you know you want to go super dark anyway. So what we're looking to do as we work our way down this truck and push it off into the distance, these narrow bars that hold all the timber in are obviously going to get thinner and thinner as you go down the line. You know, here's your fattest one nearest to you, and you've got to start reducing your size as you go off, tailing into the distance. Also, we have a metal ruler. This is a great tool for any pyrographer, and I would suggest that you buy one at your earliest convenience. If you try to do a straight line with a plastic ruler, you're just going to melt it. You're going to ruin your pen. It's just going to be a waste of time. So get yourself, there's this one and I've got a larger size, but get yourself a metal ruler. And I'm still just letting this pen heat up, work in small areas that I know want to go dark anyway. So still getting the gauge of what I want to do. So what I'm looking to do is put some straight edges to these distant poles with my metal ruler. Now, another thing when you're using the metal ruler is once you touch down, like you get lined up here and you think, right, I'm good to go, I can run my line. And as soon as your pyrography pen touches that metal ruler, it's going to suck the heat right out of the pen and into the ruler, so you're going to lose a lot of your heat. So it's one of these jobs where you either make many passes, or you can line it up, do a tiny touch. Remember, this is a sharp edge pen, so you don't want to be applying much pressure with this pen. do another little pass, take your pen away again, let it heat up, gather some heat back into that pen. Make another pass, again, that should lift off, let the heat rebuild. Again, move away. I mean, there is a way where some pyrographers will just turn the heat up really high, you know, and just basically char the wood as they burn the lines in, which makes it look a bit more of a mess. If you start actually charring and burning your wood, that is not what pyrography is about. Pyrography is about, you know, letting the heat seep into the wood and start building your artwork from there. So we'll have a little test with no ruler. And in this small rounded skew, I've done horse rope that has been super fine, and even been able to put the individual strands of rope into it because it's such a thin edge. I'm going to knock the heat up a little more. We're currently at just over 2 on the Optima gauge. Now I'm going to go freehand at this, because as I said, the metal ruler is just sucking all the heat out of my pen and not letting me get anything down into the wood. Don't apply any pressure with the tip of this because it's sharp and you will just gouge straight into your wood. So take your time. So my belly always starts rumbling when we start filming. Weird. And by the way, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you all had a good Christmas. It was different, wasn't it, this year? Certainly was a different Christmas. But we're all still here to tell the tale. So that's a good thing. I know that sadly, you know, many aren't still with us to tell the tale, unfortunately, through these times. And we must never forget the people who sadly passed through this pandemic. And some of us who have survived, got through by any means possible. You know, you just gotta stay safe, keep soldiering on. Basically, that's what we've done. We've kept ourselves shielded pretty much because my wife, she has COPD, so we have to be real careful. I won't lie to you, it's pretty cold in this room at the minute. This was my youngest son's bedroom when he was growing up. Now he's a man and he's looking at getting his own place, so it's turned into my pyrography room, which I was working out in the wooden shed and running an electric heater permanently because of the cold. So it's nice to be indoors, but even indoors at the moment it's pretty cold. I've got my coat and scarf on. I know it's not as cold as some of you guys get out in the USA. You get some real cold weather, but it's around -10, so it's pretty cold. We're just getting into the daylight hours now. Right, so let's have a look. So we've got the heat where I want it to be on this pen. Let's end. If you don't feel confident enough to run a straight line freehand, or as near as you can a straight line, then the ruler method is a great alternative. Let's see here, you see how thin a line we can actually do. I'm applying no pressure whatsoever. I'm just barely touching down on the surface. And because this is way off in the distance, I just want a narrow line. I don't even want it really black, you know, I don't want it dark because it's just off in the distance. It's, you know, something you can't really see, so you don't want to go into like mega detail with things that are set way off. And I was working upside down there, so when I flip the board round, we'll go at it from the other side now, from straight up. If you haven't got yourself a micro skew, I would invest in one. They're great for doing like whiskers, little strands of hair, and there's some people who are super skilled and they can actually do like full, really highly detailed artwork on a button, just on a tiny little buttons. It's fantastic. They work under a magnifying glass with these micro skews, and the level of detail they can put in them is absolutely amazing. It isn't a pen I use very often. You know, it's not one that you're going to have out all the time, depending on what sort of pyrography you create. But always remember, there is no rush. Just find your perfect heat setting gradually. Don't get tempted to crank the heat up too high and ruin your piece. We have a saying in pyrography, it's easier to go darker than it is to go lighter. go lighter with pyrography is getting the sandpaper out. That's the only way to go lighter, so that's something we want to try and avoid. I'd like to thank everybody who subscribed to the channel over these last months. I know 200 and something members might not sound a lot, but to me it's like maybe it's worth like being millions. You know, I never expected to get any subscribers to the channel, so I'm very grateful to you all, and I hope I can pass on some learning to you. So we're looking at just putting really thin edgings to these bars that held all this timber. I don't know if you remember from previous videos I've done, I use what we call the low and slow method of pyrography, which basically is burning low and slow and gradually building your way to the finished product, rather than having a heat set high and doing it in a day or in a couple of days. You know, a piece, I like to spend a couple of weeks searching for opportunities to capture more depth, more little bits of detail. See if we can just run this down an edge, because I said these have got to be really thin because they're tailed off way back down the back end of the truck. I don't know if every manufacturer of pyrography pens, machines, you know, I don't know if they all offer a micro skew. Imagine all the big named manufacturers of pyrography equipment, they will. But some of these smaller ones, you know, these starter kits you get on Amazon and stuff, you're not going to get yourself a micro skew in there. You know, the starter kits aren't really set up for equipment like this. You know, this is when you get yourself a bit more advanced, you save up a little bit more money and you can invest in a bit of a higher end pyrography machine. And the Optima wood burner, I know when I bought mine, this was going back a bit now, so I don't know what prices are like now, I haven't checked, but I paid, I think it was just over £200, but I bought a few extra pens as well at the time. I think the starter set at the time was around £180, £190 for a dual. And all a dual means is you've got two pots. You can't run them both heated at the same time, but you can switch between the two pens, so you've got two pens set up, but you can only have one running at a time. It's just if you're doing jobs like this and you're doing a quick, well, not a quick job, but a one-off bit of a job, and then you want to go back to your stock pen that you're using, you just flip the switch over and the other pen will heat up and you can use that one. So that's really all the differences between like single and dual machines. Dual machines just got two ports, so you can have two pens set up, but you can't have both pens hot at the same time. Otherwise the pen you left, just on the stand, would just be gathering that much heat and everything, it just burn itself out. This truck, I think, is for a lady's dad. I think he obviously was something to do with timber. He must have been the timber haulage guy in the forests or whatever, and maybe he's retired or something, I don't know. And she asked me, could I do a pyrography artwork, I think, of a dad's lorry. So I've been at it for maybe just over, maybe 2 weeks. So on and off, because there's other things that you have to do. Some of you may know my dad had a stroke back in early of last year, so I'm having to care for him as well and dash off to his house, which is like a half-hour drive away, a few times a week. So it kind of kills all the momentum you build up. You just get started into getting your eye in, and then all of a sudden you get a message or a phone call off my dad, can you come and do this, I'm stuck with something, and I say pen down and I'm off. But the good thing about that is it's good to have a break from a piece of art you're doing. Sometimes you can get your eye. I'm going to try the ruler method here on the very back, if I can get it tight up. You can look at a piece for too long and sometimes it's good to step back. I'm running more of the like fish shaped blade down the edge. I'm running it quickly. So I don't want it burning the wood. And I'll just make even if you sit there and have to do 20 passes. To get your line, then just do 20 passes. Doesn't take you long, does it? It's only a couple of minutes. Just stick tight up to the edge of that ruler. And that's just stuff off, way off in the distance. But anyway, that was a little brief look at the micro skew and using a metal ruler. So remember, put your ruler down, get it lined up with where you want to be, and then you have to dab, because like I said, that ruler is going to suck all the heat out of your pen. And don't press down too hard with your micro skew, otherwise you'll just cut a rut into the wood. They are a tool that takes a bit of getting used to. To lift off, let some heat build. Have another go, lift off. Let some heat build again. Stay pressed up to that ruler's edge. And over time, you may not be able to see it, but I am getting the sharp line that I want just down here. Which I think, as it's set back in the truck, you don't want big thick lines. We're talking about, you know, hair's width lines. Just experiment with a few different ways. The thing I found, you can't get too greedy and try and do a line without having your pen glowing hot. Basically, that's how you would use a metal ruler and your pyrography pens. And that is, the micro edge skew. Okay, so I'll leave it there for today. Just a very brief video, and I shall see you all again soon in the next project. Okay, take care for now, everybody. Stay safe and have a great day. Okay, bye.